Hello, Mario!
Here we are, and we have a fairly typical levelling question from a surveying exam. Reduce these level observations, reproduced in the field notes. This is the field note here. Carry out and show all of the appropriate checks and adjust any misclose. So what I'm going to do here is first of all explain what's going on, show how it is, and then we will finish by showing you what you would do in the exam. So in the first part we're just explaining and showing how things relate, and then at the end we will show you what the result would look like in an exam, which is going to be a wee bit different from what we're doing explaining here. So key point is that what we're doing here would not be necessary to do in the exam. We're doing it here as part of the explanation. That is to say, you can do it in the exam if you want, but it's not going to get you any more marks and things. So the first thing is, let's look at what's happening, what's going on, and we're going to sort of draw a little bit of a diagram here and try and get that all sorted. Okay, and so first thing is we have got a benchmark, just a little benchmark here. Okay, and we're going to set our level up here, and all our level does is determine a horizontal plane. So there's our horizontal plane there. And this is our benchmark here. This is BM. This is A45. And it has an RL of 25.680. Right there, like that. So that's our starting point. And we put our staff on there, and we read on the staff 1.325. That's our, up there, our first backsight. And then we go to our foresight. Now for our foresight, we can see that it's longer than the backsight, and it's just like a little, it's a change point. Change point 1. And it's lower, and our reading there is 2.875. Okay, so if we take our backsight 1.325 and we subtract our foresight 2.875, we get a fall negative 1.550. So, yep, it's a fall. And if we subtract that from the RL, we get 24. Damn it. Somehow disappeared. 24 point. Right, I'll just need a bit more room in here. 24.1300. And that gets that all on there and done. 24.1300. Oh, that's a bit small. Okay, so now we move on to our next setup, and we're going to set our level here. Let's set our level here, and we take a reading against the horizontal line to CP1, so of 0.712. So that's our backsight. So that's over here, 0.712 is over there. Okay, and that gives us there. Now we've got a couple of intermediate sights. One of them is a bit lower, it's down here. That's to the sump. That's to the sump for some reason. That's the sump in there, and that reading is 1.301. And then we have a negative reading, which is upside down. So that's an inverted staff, and that's to our beam. There, and that's our inverted staff, like that. And that is a reading of minus 1.772, like that there. And then we finish the job, finish the setup with a reading here to CP2 of, and that's a foresight, 1.561. So let's have a look and see what we've got here. So 0.712 is our backsight minus foresight is minus 1.301. So that's going to give us another fall of 0.589. Okay, now that comes to the intermediates 2 in a row. So we just go 1.301. So we just come through the intermediates. 1.301 minus 1.772. And as you can see from the diagram, it's going to be a rise, of course, because it's going up. It's going up from the sump up to the beam. So it's going to be a significant rise. And obviously we do it algebraically. So 1.301 minus 1.772, that means they add together. And that's going to give us a rise of 3.073. So let's try and put that in here, 3.073. Okay, so that's the difference in height from the sump to the underside of the beam. We've got the 0.509 fall from CP1 to the sump, and then we rise up from the sump 3.073. So it stands to reason we're going to drop down or have a fall to CP2, and that's going to be minus 1.772 minus 1.561, so a total negative of 3.333, and our instrument man is reducing all of this stuff as we go. Our instrument man is reducing that. So 24.130 now becomes 23.541 as we subtract
0.589
from 24.130. Just having a few little problems here. Okay, so that's we're going to get 23.541. And then we're going to add the 3.073, which is up to the beam, which is going to give us 26.614. That's the RL of the beam. And then we're going to come back down to earth to CP2 by subtracting the 3.333 minus the fall, and that's going to give us 23.281. Okay, now let's see how that all comes back together again. There we go. So we're working out our rises and falls as we go, and we've done our two setups. So the instrument man should be doing the maths as you go. As you get real experience with this, you're able to do it in your head, although some can carry a small calculator. And these days with the new digital equipment, this is all kept on board on the instrument, so you can keep a running total as you go with the new digital barcode reading levels and things like that. So that brings us to the final setup, which is here. So we're going to set our level approximately here. Our little two-legged level. There's our horizontal line. Tried to keep our backsights and foresights level. That's CP2 there. And the backsight to there is 2.367. And the foresight here to, I might just drop that down and give myself a little bit more room. The foresight here to BM A 0.42, RL 25.2882. Note that's four decimal places, so that means we'll be doing our heights to 4 decimal places in the final there. And there we have a foresight of 0.354. And backsight minus foresight for that setting, 2.367 minus 0.354 gives us 2.013 in here, 2.013 in there, which we would add, and that would give us 25.2940. Okay, 25.2940. And so that completes the leveling setup in the field, but now we must check that everything's all good in that before we leave the field. Always check, reduce your field note before you leave the field. Now in here is we're going to be the adjustment. Right, and I might just make that J a little smaller. Oh, I made it bigger. Like that, adjustment in there. Right, so first of all we can check out our misclose, and what we can see is we've got 25.2940, but it should be 25.2882. So what we have to do is subtract minus 0.0058, because we hold our two heights. So that's our misclose. All right, but before we sort of apply that, let's check our arithmetic and just make sure everything's right, because everything here, everything that's in here, they're our readings. Okay, they're set in concrete, they can't change. We write down what we read, but after that everything is calculated, and as we know, calculated things can have errors. So it's important that we do checks to make sure that we have no errors. So one of the things that we can do is we can add up our backsights. So this is the, I'll do these in black. That should be in black actually. Okay, so sum of the backsights, and for that we get 4.4040. And we don't worry about the intermediates. Sum of the foresights, 4.790. 4.790. And then what we do over here is we subtract, so we go minus 4.790, and that will give us minus 0.3860. So that's our difference in height. That's our measured difference in height. Okay, that's what we've measured with our two things, 0.3860. And yeah, so if you went 25.680 and subtracted 0.3860, if we're correct, you should get 25.994. But let's prove that. So now we sum our rises, and the sum of the rises is 5.086. And the sum of the falls, 5.472. And then we subtract those, 5.472. And what we get is minus 0.386. Now, important that you check that you take the small one from the big one. That gives you the negative. So in this case it's 5.086. This is negative, so just make sure you get the signs right there. So we get negative 0.386, negative 0.386, 2 ticks. That's all good. That's all good. Now, the other thing we can do here is we can come in here. I'll just zoom in on this one. Let me drop it down a little bit. And I'm going to subtract here in this case here, minus 25.680. Subtract that from there, minus 25.680. And again, we get minus 0.386. So, again, our arithmetic's good. That's our thing. All right, now it comes to the adjustment. Now, for the adjustment, so what we've got is we've got
5.8 mils
that we need to adjust out through this exercise here. And what we assume is that because we've got no distances or anything to go on, sometimes we do, but we're going to assume that we've made the same error at every setup. Now there's 3 setups, and even though there's 5 lines, the intermediate sights don't appear in the first run of the adjustment. So we're going to put a little bit of adjustment, or the same amount of adjustment in the first setup, and then a little same, proportionate there. So we've got 3 setups. So if we go 0.058 divided by 3, we get 19 and 1 remainder. So what I'm going to do for my adjustments, I'm going to go 19, 20, 19. So 19 and 19 is 38, plus 20 is 58. So that's how much adjustment I'm going to do at each setup. But the adjustment is cumulative. And we don't put the adjustment in the first instance, we don't put the adjustment in the intermediate sites. So I'm just going to say these are our intermediate sites here. All right, let's put our adjustment. No adjustment there because that's a benchmark. So that's going to be 25.680. And we just add the adjustments across. But anyway, let's get the adjustments in here. So we're going to go 0.0019. Next ones are these are intermediates, so we'll just leave that for now. Now we'll go 20, 0.0039. Oh, note they're negative. And then we add another 19. Bingo! Minus 0.0058. We're all good. Now for the intermediates, we just use the backsight of the setup that they're at. So they're just minus 0.0019 minus 0.0019. And then these are applied across. So then we're going to get 24.1281. 24.1281. And then we're going to get 23.5391. And then we're going to get 26.6121. And then we're going to get 23.271. 23.2771. Okay. And there we are. We should be all done with the appropriate arithmetic checks all sorted. So hopefully that has explained what we're doing. A big part of it is the understanding the process and how it's booked and the format of everything. And then once you've got that done, and then these are our final adjusted RLs for these points. The change points, we just pull them out and go. They're just a mechanism for it to change, and the information that we get out of this is the sump, RL 23.5391, and the underside of the beam. That's the only new information we come away from this with this leveling process. So what I want to do now is that's pretty much how it all comes out in the big scheme of things. And I'm just going to drop down here now, and this is what it might look like in an exam. This is what your answers might look like in an exam, like this here, just the sheet filled in with the arithmetic checks underneath. Just might pay to fill in what each one is, but I think that's a reasonable sort of response there. I've added just in here, I don't know that I've got room to do that on I've added, yes, just in here, if we go minus 25.6800 there, you will get what I've got here in this one here. You will get minus 0.3918 minus 0.3918, and you'll note, what you'll note there is that that's minus 0.386 minus the adjustment 0.0058, and that's in there. So again, that's another little check that you could do there for your you know, as an arithmetic check, just to make sure that everything's right. So that would give you a good another good check, and having plenty of checks is always really good. So here it is, and it gives you confidence as well. You sort of can have a little bit of confidence in your work, and yeah, that's what it might look like, what your answer could look like in an exam, just filling that out like that. I would, if the checks don't work out, sort out the arithmetic problem first before moving to the next step, because if there's an error early on, you'll carry it forward and it'll make it worse. So yeah, all very good. So there you go. There it is. There's your answer. Bloody marvellous. Mm.